Hey everybody, Kevin and Lincoln back with a Monday edition of the FloTrack podcast. I don't know if people have favorites yet in terms of which pairing is the best.
Oh, that's a good
Personally, I'm a fan of the Gordon-Lincoln combo.
People are saying it.
At 1.5x.
Yeah.
That's my customization that makes it even better.
You've introduced me to that. Obviously, I've listened to that speed before, but not for actual listening purposes, just for to test it out.
You got to get through
and
it.
And I hear that some people have customizable, so you can go beyond just the 0.5 parameters. You can go to 1.7. I mean, if you can hear the difference between 1.5 and 1.7 speed, then I congratulate you. But yeah,
I haven't found the sweet spot yet for you and Gordon, but I think 1.5 is the best. On today's show, I got the rundown right here. First things first, we're going to figure out if there are any world records over the weekend, because that's how you have to start every track and field show.
I think so.
Alberto Salazar in the news again, along with Farah. We'll talk about the BU 5K, which some are calling the greatest indoor 5K in history. We'll check in on the marathon trial, see if there's any news on that front. And then there were some fast men's DMRs this weekend as well. And I think we pretty much have the field set for NCAAs and the DMRs. I'm not sure. There could be...
Unless maybe NAU.
Someone sneaks in.
Try to do that. The women's seems pretty clear-cut. The men's will have the defending champion back in full force. But, yeah, things are starting to come to...
Ahead,
I guess. Be a lot clearer as we approach March. Yeah. So I can't believe March is almost here.
It is. Mm-hmm. All right, let's start first with Salazar.
Okay.
Big BBC report. It's coming. The full show is coming out tonight, and we're recording this on a Monday morning. So all we've seen so far is what they have put out in advance. There was also at the end of last week, there was a big Farah media initiative too, where he gave interviews to other athletes as well. So there's been a whole bunch of stuff on this front. I guess we'll start first with the Salazar stuff, and then we'll go to the Farah stuff second. What were the salient points to you about what we...
Well, we had Kara Goucher and Adam Goucher both involved in this program, giving information, I think. Kara saying that during her time coming back after childbirth, that Salazar she was giving more information about how Alberto Salazar wanted her to change her body, talking specifically, it feels weird saying this on a podcast, but talking about her breast size, coming back obsessed very, very much, and that kind of doubles down with what Mary Kane was saying about how Alberto very, very obsessed with the female body as it related to competing at a high level, and it seems like, Kara obviously had that experience, maybe, worse than anyone as far as being the one that had a baby coming back and trying to succeed after that. So there's those allegations. And for me, the thing that stood out is, Travis Tigert saying that they're seeking a lifetime ban. I feel like we knew that in some shape or form, but I guess I could be getting my facts confused. I know Safe Sport is seeking a lifetime ban, but
that's for
hearing Tigert
different.
Hearing Tigert say they're seeking a lifetime ban while Salazar plans to appeal in August.
Right, which was interesting to me. We never knew when the appeal was officially going to come. I always assumed they were going to, because they had mentioned things about spring in terms of getting it together, but it's not going to be until after the Olympics, which is, I guess that's better timing in terms of if you're in charge of track and field and you want the fewest possible negative headlines about track. I guess you'd want to put that in August after the Olympics, when the season is pretty much wrapped at that point. Ariana Lambie also spoke out, a name maybe some people aren't familiar with, a very good runner coming out of Stanford many years ago. Talked about how she had been prescribed thyroid medication. Also, Salazar had her take some sort of substance and then later got it tested to see if it would flag a positive test. All this stuff, I think, sort of just adds to the case that was already there. Like if this was a charging document, right, I don't think it would bring out a brand new entire charge. More, it would just supplement the things that we already knew about the use of thyroid medication, about the idea of using athletes as guinea pigs in essence. So I don't know when you're talking about public opinion, I don't know if it's moving it one way or another on Salazar. I think people have made up their mind at this point, which I think you probably could say the same thing about Farah too at this point. Although when you have headlines with lie in it, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And so the two things with Farah, one, he said Jama Aiden, he actually did know him. He said he really didn't give the full extent of their relationship when he was asked about him at the Olympics. He said he's just a guy who asked for a selfie. He talked about how they're both from Somalia and they had similar idols. And then the other one was in 2015. They leaked a document from the USADA report in 2015. He was asked about an L-carnitine injection in 2014. He said he never got it. He concludes his testimony. He goes out and he speaks to a UK athletics official who talks to him, and then he comes back in the room and then revises.
Not just a UK athletics official, isn't
it? Sorry. There's a lot of names here.
Yeah.
Barry Fudge.
Yeah.
Barry Fudge. And then he revises it and says, no, he actually did have that injection. Now, keep in mind, the injection was legal, right? This wasn't if you have an L-carnitine infusion below a certain amount of 50 millimeters, I believe, it's considered above board. But the thing where Farah, I think, totally miscalculated. If he was trying to use all these press opportunities to get people to see his side, I mean, I think attacking the whistleblowers was just a
bad play.
Bad move on his part. I think there's a way to disagree with what they're saying without condemning them. I guess he could have said, hey, look, this was my experience. Their experience was different. I mean, he's still employed by Nike. That's the thing, right? He's not a Salazar guy anymore, but he's still getting his checks from a company that's vowed to support a coach that's under suspension.
This, to me, doesn't put Farah in that much worse of a light than I guess he would have already been to people who
Explain.
At worst, it positions him as a liar. I would say at best, he's to use a famous term, he's guilty of misremembering. To having an L-carnitine injection. Perhaps you could say, well, he got all sorts of vitamin injections in the past. I'm just looking into it with a rose-colored glass here. It's not like, I mean, like we said, he did everything within the rules. Like, at worst, he's just a liar. And of course, when you can say someone and look at them and say, oh, they're a liar, what does that say about everything else they've told us about their past?
Yeah.
But as far as, is this going to lead to any suspension? Of course not.
No.
I think you hit it on the head when you said that people that have their opinion about Mo Farah, this isn't going to change it one way or the other. I still tend to look at him as someone who, because he's British and I mean, I don't know, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but perhaps because he's an immigrant too, has been really attacked by the British media. I don't want to accuse anyone of anything, because Salazar obviously has also gotten his share, and he's not in the same position as Mo Farah, but I think we can give Farah the fair thing that said, I have been unfairly attacked. I understand my association with Alberto Salazar, but what we're listing here, I can easily say in a court of law, there's nothing that passes the snuff of somebody saying, well, this is clearly indicative of guilt. I think it's reasonable to say he could have forgot. It's also reasonable to say he's a liar, and that could mean he's a cheater.
Yeah.
But nothing we learned from this further implicates Farah to the point of me thinking, oh, he's a cheater. At worst, he's a liar, and at best, he misremembered some facts, because who knows how many different, how often are professional athletes getting injections? Some probably more than others. L-carnitine is a legal thing, but it definitely has some
well, if you're going to go at him for this,
sketchiness involved to it.
Well, if you're going to go at him for this, right, this is the same thing that Ritz did.
Yeah.
So you got to,
right.
If this is the stand that you're taking, you got to be with it the whole way. Yeah, everybody sees it through their frame, because if you go in with the frame of, Farah's not guilty, he's done everything that's above board and to the letter of the law, then you'd say, well, look, in 2015, BBC and Panorama did this whole report. Mm-hmm. They never found anything about him. When Fancy Bears leaked people's TUEs, they came up with 2 TUEs from him, and that's all. They would say, okay, he has a missed test, but look, we've gone down the missed test road before. We know that that's something that happens. He hasn't had 3 missed tests before. You'd look at the situation where, he's being questioned by investigators, and he misremembers.
Perhaps.
And then, well, no, that's what I'm saying. If you look at it from this frame, I'm going at it from the look. you can use confirmation bias to connect a lot of dots. And he's asked about Jama Aiden. Maybe he panicked because he knows his guy was in the news, and he says, no, I don't really know him that much. I mean, he's a guy who's out there. And if we start doing the whole guilt by association game, I think we get to a place that would it catch more people, or would it put a cloud of suspicion over more people? Yes, but there would be horrendous side effects to that, and we don't need to just confine our thinking of that to professional sports. Look outside the world and how damaging that type of thinking can be. So I think we need to be cautious with that. Now, if you go in it with the perception of he's with NOP, and NOP has always been shady, and Alberto Salazar has always been shady, then you look at this as, two more situations where he had the opportunity to tell the truth and he didn't, and then what else is out there? And that's why, I don't have this really profound statement on it, other than this stuff seems to be getting us in the same spot over and over and over again.
I don't know if you can say one is more damning than the other. It doesn't feel like any super damning allegations relative to changing the positions that they're in. I mean, Salazar's appeal, I don't know if it obviously doesn't improve off this. I don't know necessarily if it gets any worse, but
I think it might get worse. I think the one group that this impacts, I wouldn't say group, but the whole idea that there's some sort of conspiracy out there against Alberto, because now we have more people, and it was hard to believe that there was some sort of conspiracy when it's 5 people, and then it's 10 people, and now there's Ariana Lambie, who's adding a completely new name, right?
Right.
Someone who hadn't been mentioned at all before comes forward and says this stuff, and she's not talking about the whole idea of body image and body shaming, right? She's talking about being prescribed a medication that she didn't need, and bringing Jeffrey Brown back into the fold here too. So I think it buffets that case. Now, but here's the thing. They're not going to look at any of that, right? Because the case that they had was the case before.
Yeah, that's
so.
What I mean.
I don't know if they're going to go into a soundproof booth like we have here, and they're not able to listen to any outside information. But I think at the very least, it strengthens the case that Tiger has, at least from a public perception of like.
Well, does the appeal mimic like a trial that we would be used to in the United States, in the sense of there's stuff that's not going to be allowed in? Like this would be stuff that was post his case being brought, so it's like this would not be included in what is being heard or what is being considered by a panel.
That's my assumption, but I do think we can't underrate the idea of just general public perception and how much that factors in. And I think the one thing that, if you're reasonable, you could sort of conclude that the things that they charged Salazar with were things that they had documented evidence from. That wasn't a thing that they just threw together at the last minute, right?
Yeah.
They took years to put that document together. Now, you might say, hey, I want to live in a track and field world where the stuff that he's accused of shouldn't be illegal or shouldn't be against the rules. That's fine, but that's a completely different argument. We have an interview up on the site right now with Danny Mackey, who was one of the whistleblowers in the case, right? And he said one of the moments that stuck out to me is like, hey, if you agree to play the game, right, you're agreeing to these sets of rules, right? So you may not like the rules.
Sure.
You may think the rules are too restrictive, but when you sign up, that's part of it, right? That's every game has rules out there. Every sport has rules, and this is one of them.
One thing that stands out to me in regards to Farah is, it's not everyone, and obviously not everyone's going to comment on this, but it seems like a big portion of his fellow athletes either don't believe him or think that, he has in some form cheated. A quote tweet from Emma Coburn stood out to me with 356 retweets, which in the track and field world is a lot, but not many, and maybe in other sports. But she quote tweeted, Chris Chavez's tweet that put
also big in the track world.
Yeah, that put out basically the conversation between USADA investigators and Farah regarding that L-carnitine, when he said, no, I didn't do it, comes back and said, wait a second, I did. And Coburn says, lies to investigators, leaves the room, learns that the facts are out, and they know he's lying, so he comes back with, quote, it's all coming back to me, to try to save himself. Why anyone would choose to cheer for this person is beyond me. So it's clear that, obviously, she doesn't speak for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's tough for me because not being a pro athlete, if you look at it one way, it can come off as a little bit sour grapes, because you want to say to someone like Emma, well, yes, he lied. I mean, one, who's not guilty of lying in their life? But two, this doesn't prove anything beyond the benefit of, or without a reasonable doubt, I guess you could say. So it's kind of like, you're allowed to tweet whatever you want, but it makes me wonder, basically, when someone's willing to go that far, when someone hasn't been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, it's like, is there something else athletes know that we don't know about what they're doing? Is this so beyond the pale that it's indicative of him cheating? Or is this someone who is just, because of his position as the most famous, one of the most famous distance runners in Britain, a place that we all know their media is
rabid.
I mean, just all and you know, journalism certainly serves its purpose. And Alberto Salazar likely would still be coaching right now without journalism. But is this a thing of the example of the British media attacking because that's all they know how to do, and it's ultimately an unfair thing? I'm not exactly sure what my point being, but it just feels like something where we're not giving someone the providing the reasonable doubt that maybe someone like him should deserve, basically.
Yeah. I would be careful in terms of judging athlete reaction based on social media. I mean, you see it with, especially in the sprint world, like, look at the reaction to Christian Coleman. Look at the reaction to Justin Gatlin. Look at the incongruity between how distance runners reacted to that and how sprinters reacted to that. And that taught me a lesson of, it's not just who's getting the most response on social media, because you ask athletes, you talk to them in the mix zones, you talk to them in person, and you get a fuller picture of who's on what side. Now, I think you bring up a point of, like, maybe people knew, maybe they know more, and this is a chance to pile on. But I mean, everybody hears rumors, right? And sometimes those are true, and sometimes those are part of it. But I mean, at the very least, you could say that the charges that were brought against Salazar, I think, were serious, and they were well founded, and I think most people were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I think where Farah could have actually gained ground here with folks like that, right? Yeah. Would have been if he sat, and he's not going to do this, obviously, because, like I said, he's still sponsored by Nike, and this is something he could have done in 2015 when the original report came out and said, I'm leaving him. He lied to me. Yeah. And I don't stand for any of that, and I'm glad I'm somewhere else. And I think that would have been like, hey, that would be the road for some people to maybe see optimistically. So view this stuff more charitably. View the two instances we talked about where he didn't tell the truth, more from a benefit of the doubt perspective. Danny also said another thing, right? Tell the story about the MMA. He gave the example of the MMA fighter, right, in the interview that we posted.
Right. Yeah, saying that, you know, an MMA fighter, I guess he follows that sport quite closely, and
as do Lincoln and I.
Yeah, of course. Danny Mackey, coach of Brooks Beast, was talking about how an athlete was trying to cut weight, took performance-enhancing drugs to do it, got caught, and laid it all out when he got caught, admitted it, and then obviously the community much more accepting.
Different community than track.
But I don't think track would react in a similar way. I feel like a sport as testosterone heavy as MMA, everyone's like, okay, I get it. You know, you're trying to protect yourself from getting your head beat in.
You're like, wait, we can't do EPO.
Yeah. So a little bit different example there than what would be
expected. But if somebody didn't do anything, right? Like Farah, if he's having a mea culpa, it's not to, hey, I did a whole bunch of drugs. It's just like, hey, I probably shouldn't have been with this guy, right? So different degrees, and maybe there could be some sort of forgiveness.
I think maybe there is a chance that Farah thinks with his lawyers, if I give an inch, they're going to take it a mile. Right. So might as well, he's also in Ethiopia right now. So I don't want to apologize for him or anything, but I just view this as, I look at this and I say, okay, the lying doesn't look good, but what he was doing to, seemingly was not against the rules.
Right.
You could definitely look at this and see Barry Fudge's involvement and say, look, this is further proof of conspiracy with UK athletics involved in pushing out Salazar's will and Salazar's power over UK athletics.
Well, they said the folks at UK didn't want to do the infusion. Yeah. And they went and did it, which, ironically, this is how the world works sometimes. What did he get that year in London? 7th, 8th? That was his debut.
He ran like 2:08.
So, yeah. I mean, not that that's not that that's the most important part here, but that always seems to be the case whenever there's some sort of shadowy doing. It's like, wait, that one didn't even have the payoff, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't even for a good cause. But yeah, then they transported the L-carnitine to make sure it was fine. Which again, if you start with the premise of L-carnitine is legal to take in certain situations, right? We're not talking about them trafficking EPO or HGH, right? I mean, we're talking about them moving something that's permissible to take. So I think his audience also too. It isn't us. It's the general sports public, right? Farah, or the general British public, right?
Yeah.
So when you said give an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
It's important to, when he says things like, well, I've never failed a drug test, or I was taking this thing and it was completely legal, there's more benefit of the doubt there. There's more goodwill there than in the running world. It's like anytime you mention never failed the drug test, everybody just types all caps on their keyboard, Lance Armstrong, as if that from here on out is going to be the only way to ever answer that question.
Yeah,
Which,
I mean, first of all,
it's true. He did fail the drug test. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that's his famous thing. Yeah, I know. I got
Right,
it.
but like that we can't use that from here until eternity to disprove everybody who says, well, look, I've never failed a drug test. Well, Lance Armstrong.
Yeah,
I mean, it becomes this whole what about thing where it just immediately discounts any sort of law. Like that may not be the only data point you need to prove your innocence, or at least prove your lack of guilt, but it can be one, right? It can be one thing and say, hey, I never failed a drug test. Like if we just immediately throw that out as like, well, one guy a long time ago had his drug test covered up. So now every drug test is completely meaningless.
Yeah.
Well, if that was the case, nobody would give drug tests. I mean, come on.
I just, I don't know. I have a hard time separating my thought that Farah has been perhaps unfairly targeted by the British media to some regards. It just feels like this is overwrought at this point. Yes, he's stayed longer with Salazar than some would have wanted, and I think he would admit now that Salazar's had a 4-year ban, he wish he could go back and do that. But the guy's changed coaches. He's not you can't say he's dodging the British media by living in the U.S. anymore.
Right.
He moved back to London. Has he done is he a PR expert? Probably not. He hasn't done his best. But there's no proof that he's cheated, and and obviously they make that clear. There's no line in Mark Daly's article or maybe we'll see what the documentary brings.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says, oh, Farah's a cheater.
Yeah.
But it does seem like too many people, maybe in the track community, are accepting that as fact when these are just, I mean, at worst, this is just just tiny examples of misbehavior.
I mean, it's more damning about Salazar.
Of course,
right?
but
go back to 2015 when that report first came out. What was your immediate reaction? I thought it was the end. I thought that was it.
For everyone?
Salazar,
Yeah.
for sure. I thought was like done for. Like if you told me then that he'd be coaching for that many
4.5 more years.
4.5 more years. Like I thought immediately it was going to be.
I didn't see that way, but that's beside
I mean,
the point.
just because you get wrapped up in it. Like I thought that was like, oh, he'll be gone by like the end of the day. Like Farah will get rid of him, Rupp will get rid of him. Almost like, I don't know. You see, this was
literally no one got rid of him.
right, exactly. Yeah. It's not even like it's not even like there needed to be a formal case brought to him. It just was one of those things where it's like, oh, there's going to be so much PR drama here, he's not going to have any clients anymore, right? Like you see sometimes with like celebrities or like big corporations when there's a crisis, and you're like, oh, there doesn't even need to be anything like going to the courts or anything. No one needs to weigh in from the police department or whatever, or the FBI. It's like, no one's going to want to train with you anymore. And you're right, literally nobody left. So, I don't know.
Do we see a situation where it's possible in this appeal, and we're not experts at all, where someone could say...
Speak for yourself.
Someone could say to Salazar in his appeal, and I'm not saying I'm for this at all. I think he will lose this appeal, and I think there's a chance he gets a lifetime ban. But where they could say, you know what, we can't, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove that you violated anti-doping rules, even though USADA did take that. But let's just say that, where they would say, but you can't coach female athletes anymore. Is that? I mean, this is taking it a little too far, maybe, but I just am wondering if he could possibly win his appeal and say there's not enough here to say for certain that you violated anti-doping rules, even though he went beyond the L-carnitine thing. I doubt that, but I just wonder maybe. I mean, he's going to have a pretty powerful
legal team.
Team. I doubt it. I'm just wondering.
I don't think they can render that sort of judgment because
Okay.
they're not ruling at all. I don't think on the other side of it. I think that's
bigger
that's
chance
a safe sport.
Bigger chance that he gets a lifetime ban than he gets off.
No. No.
Better chance that he gets
off than he gets a lifetime ban, in my opinion. I don't doubt the power of Nike's legal team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like this stuff. Like I said, even if this stuff was able to be taken into account, and maybe it is in some way, shape, or form. Maybe this is already information that was known and it was buried somewhere in there. I mean, I don't remember seeing some of these names, but even if it was, it just, again, adds to what was already there. It's not something new. He can use the same line of defense that he used about the other things with this, and it just goes under this umbrella of blah, 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 blah. And then they had some sort of line in there about, like, he always looked out for the athlete's well-being or something like that in the initial report. So, yes. I think if I had to place a bet, I would say the 4-year ban gets upheld. The next possible outcome would be he gets off, and then the lowest possible would be a lifetime
lifetime
ban.
would be pretty significant, considering that's the standard for that is for athletes is what, like a 3-time offender?
Well, 2 if you do it the right way. I mean, 2 if it's 4 and then 4 and then lifetime if you are dealing with serious.
But so going back to Farah, does this change your perception or view of him at all?
I mean, it just confirms. I mean, I consider myself one of the people that I was describing. It just kind of confirms what you already go in and think about. I think you could see a situation where all these things are shadowy, and he was obviously part of Alberto's program. So if you think what Alberto was doing was wrong, obviously you're going to think what Farah was doing was wrong. I mean, why are you even taking L-carnitine injections? Why are you doing all these other stuff? But again, there's been a lot of attention and scrutiny on Farah.
Well, that's what I start to wonder. And I understand Farah is British, and that's why he's going to be targeted by the British media primarily. But when you look at it the way, and the American and British media are quite different.
Yeah.
But when you look at it the way of reports that have come out against Galen Rupp versus reports that have come out against Mo Farah.
Yeah.
I know that Rupp is American. I get that, and you can hinge your argument on that. I don't want to use the R word, but it feels like a moment that there should be a reasonable doubt given to this because of the fact Farah seems to be getting so hit over the head by this British media to the point that seems unfair to me.
Well, and I want to draw a distinction between there's different parts of the British media, and some are fair. And I think the BBC stuff obviously is on the more American. I say that in a good sense in terms of like less tabloidy. But there are a lot of tabloids in Britain who, because he's such a big star and because Trax occupies a higher place than it does in the, and that's part of it, I think, too. Track's just a bigger deal there. Farah's a bigger deal. They had the London Olympics, so he's a bigger star. He's a bigger name. There are outfits there, who are like, you read some of the stuff, and the headline just outruns the content matter by a mile and a half. Like, it's not even close. I think...
Because are we calling Dathan Ritzenhein a cheater?
Well,
because, he through maybe no fault of his own, but he cheated, right?
Well, he did the same thing here. Now, I guess you could say, when he was pressed by investigators...
Did he lie?
Did he lie, leave the room, and then come back and change his story?
Was he under oath, though? He wasn't under oath.
Well, but we don't know the particulars. But when it just comes down to the act itself, they both did the same thing. I just think when you're talking about, equitable treatment, when he missed the drug test... How many, was that 1 or 2 that he did? I mean, it certainly wasn't 3, right?
I do not remember.
And when he said he didn't hear it's because he said he didn't hear the doorbell, right? So many athletes that we don't even know about miss drug tests.
Christian Coleman probably should have, if not for certain scenarios that he was able to argue, he could have missed the world championships.
Right, I know, but I'm talking about ones we don't even hear about. Ones where they get the 1 missed test or the 2 missed tests, and it never gets flagged because it doesn't rise to the level of suspension, which is 3 in 1 year, right? Yeah. So all sorts of people have those issues, right? Christina Horgu had that issue. Like, but the way that's presented, right, it's through this prism of guilt before innocence, and in a way that I just don't, like, the sports side of me, that watches the Houston Astros and things like that, I was like, oh yeah, like, it's probably guilty. But like the general, like, person who, is a citizen of the United States and the world and has been taught innocence is where we should start from, I think it's really damaging to the culture. And I know we can't let Lance Armstrong dictate how we view every single person from here on out in the rest of our lives, because it's just completely poisoned the well in terms of everybody now is cynical about everybody. And I'm not saying go into it, don't have a critical eye, and don't bury your head in the sand or whatever. But Lance Armstrong and Marion Jones, we saw this last year with Brianna Williams of Jamaica. It's like people are calling her a drug cheat. It's like, just because Marion Jones let you down when you're 13 years old, don't take it out on.
That's exactly what I think a lot of this is. But go ahead.
Brianna Williams, yeah. And it's like, I want to talk, I don't know. I guess people could listen to this or watch this and say, these guys are being soft on him. But it's just like, I think you're letting cheaters win when you turn everything into this cynical approach of everybody's guilty, everybody must be doing it the wrong way. We're not leaving any room for like Brianna Williams, that couldn't have possibly been a mistake. It had to be some grand plot. Mo Farah saying he didn't do this when he actually did. That can't be a mistake. That has to be part of some sort of bigger ordeal. Like all these things, no one is allowed to make an honest mistake for it. Now, I guess where Farah gets into the issue is got to be, if you do that, you have to be more upfront about your apology, which is why, I think Tyson Gay, of all people, handled this the best. Now, he still had to serve the ban, right? He said he did it.
Yeah.
He said, I put my trust in someone, they let me down. He said, John Drummond let me down. Took the testosterone cream, I did it. It was the complete opposite of what we had seen before.
Which is interesting, because I think if Farah did that in regards to Salazar, he would have a lot more sympathy.
In 2015, if he completely disavowed it, and I don't know the contractual ramifications of it, but if he was like, screw this, I'm out. I don't want any part of this. I didn't do any of the stuff that was described. Yeah, we did do everything we can to maximize our chances to win, whatever that means.
Right.
But I don't, this stuff I'm reading about is not something that I want to be involved in. I'm gone.
Sure. But we also don't know if what Nike was saying to him. He said he could have been saying to them behind the scenes, I want to leave. And they're like, that's not going to look good and you can't do that.
And that's why I don't think they did. That's why I felt like my reaction in retrospect was so, naive. Of oh yeah, Kevin, you thought all these people were going to leave, the most powerful coach. But I don't know. It's interesting with Rupp, when we talk about Rupp, of okay, now he has this second act with Mike Smith, right? And it's well, that's the only thing he's ever known was working with Rupp. I mean, you're talking about, though, a grown adult, a guy in his 30s, who conceivably had agency. But then you're thinking, well, how much agency does he really have if his shoe sponsor is tied up with this guy, and this guy wields all sorts of influence
on the Nike campus?
Well, that's why I think I've heard a little bit about what's going to come out in this thing tonight, and I hope they go more into the whole culture of Nike thing, because to me that's almost more important than a lie here or a lie there, because it gets to why they maybe feel like they have to act in the way that they do. I'm talking about the athletes and the overarching culture of it. But I don't know, it's complicated, man. It's all
I mean, I think what's not complicated is I think this is further proof that Alberto Salazar is not a guy acting in good faith at best. I think we can safely say he was at best a jerk, and at worst someone who was always scheming to manipulate the rules. And yes, he was trying not to cheat, but I think there was certainly examples that he knew he was crossing the line and did it anyway. I'm just much less certain about Farah. Obviously, what this shows about him, I continues to be someone that I think should be allowed to be competing, and for some people to say that I don't know how anyone cheers for him. Come on, you don't know how anyone cheers for Mo Farah?
Well,
I mean, come on, that's too far.
The problem is you have to you need to codify some of this stuff, right? Is there anything written in the rules where Salazar's not allowed to give something to someone and then have them take a test later on to figure if it's no, it's just you can't take a banned substance, but that's not specifically codified in the rules, which is where it gets difficult.
Just the overwhelming number of women that have come forward and examples of the way he treated his female athletes, not to mention all the stuff he was obviously doing with,
that's more
with
damaging.
the thyroid and obviously, the medication, the carving out the books to send Galen, certain medication, the what do you want to call it? The secretive stuff that's beyond that. But the stuff with Mary Kane, with Carrie Goucher, with Amy, with Yoder Begley, with this woman here that was first mentioned in this new report. This is all the stuff that ultimately says, he needs to be out of the sport.
Well, that's the stuff that's way more damaging because PEDs, even though it's maybe not a two-way street, right? There's some assumption of the athlete is willing to do it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about an abusive situation, that's something that everybody unilaterally gets behind as being bad. There's people out there who say, TUEs, that's no big deal. There's people out there who say PEDs are no big deal. There's nobody out there who's saying, emotional abuse? Well, let's look at the other. That's I mean, I guess someone could say, it's part of sports. Got to suck it up and take it. But when you're talking about and describing the things that Mary Kane did, that's on a whole different level. And that's something where it's we don't want to. I mean, that's why that gets. I mean, that's why that's on. There's a reason why that's on the New York Times, right? And this stuff won't get as much attention.
Oh, right? And that's the stuff he's had the worst time, I think, defending or saying that he didn't do, because the only thing Salazar has been able to offer is, no, that's not what happened. I always had Mary Kane, insert another name's best intentions. I emailed with her parents, and we know that maybe that's true, but we also have more witnesses saying no, he was abusive towards her, and have examples of medications that Kara was getting that probably she shouldn't have had, and Dr. Jeffrey Brown was involved, and it's right in the loop of the process. So this is the stuff ultimately that could be permanently Salazar's downfall. I think
it's easy to have a stance on that and stick to it. I find it, as someone who's just observed track and field for the last 10, 15 years. It's harder on some of this other stuff. It's hard. I wish I could have a definitive Farah take and post it on Twitter and be done with it, but it's more complicated. The other stuff is much less ambiguous. To me, so. It's okay. This is wrong. Now, whether or not you want to allow that in sport or not, because again, I'm sure other sports, right, have coaches in it who have been. There's a reckoning going on even in hockey about how toxic the culture is. Right. Around the coach-athlete relationship there. I mean, that's something ultimately that sport needs to decide, right? What's permissible and what's not. Yeah. I just keep going back to with all powerful people like this, it's how valuable are they really? Right? Yeah. How it's really worth it to Nike. This is the hill they want to die on.
It does seem. I mean, Nike's probably never going to die on a hill, right? I mean, that's the.
They just buy a new hill.
Yeah, I mean,
And they buy that tower outside the new Hayward Stadium, and that's an even a higher hill, so they just keep going up. And
there you go. I mean, I don't know what is hurting Nike and their sales numbers. This is such a small community. Yeah. How many people that wear Nike know who Alberto Salazar is? Not
a fraction.
A fraction. Yeah, very small fraction. So this isn't anything that's going to hurt them. I think they would, like I said, long term they're not damaged overwhelmingly by athletes. Track and field athletes are still signing with Nike with nothing damaging to their conscience done. So,
and that's the other part of this too, the idea that there's just big, huge Nike-wide conspiracy, which I don't like. There's Nike athletes who have never met Alberto Salazar, will never met. They just get a check and some spikes from them, right? They wield a huge influence in the sport, but it's not it's a big shop, right? It's a big, massive operation. So there's plenty of people. It's interesting. You see all these Bowerman people, and a lot of Nike athletes, once this Mary Kane stuff came out, 100% on board. Obviously, they're not best of friends. That's been documented. I mean, the Jerry Schumacher, Alberto Salazar thing at U.S. Indoors that one year was written about extensively. So it's not it's not one team, everybody on the same page here, right? They probably dislike him more than outside people do because they've worked with him or had to come in contact with him. So painting a broad brush and saying it's all one way or the other, it's so complicated at this point. But there are a few universal truths in here, which hopefully we're getting closer to solving. How's that? That was 35 minutes off the top of
that was
just
a lot
of lukewarm takes.
Yulimar Rojas broke the triple jump world record.
I was going to ask you, we have to start, we have to just check in. Were there any world records broken?
Friday, there were.
Indoor world record for Rojas.
Second best triple jump ever when you go
Indoors,
compare indoors,
outdoors.
outdoors.
Yeah.
Which we've gotten used to with Mondo. Now he's going above the outdoor world record.
Dude, Mondo,
these field events, we're finding out, is there really any difference indoor and outdoor? Obviously you get some tailwind in the triple jump.
Yeah, pole vault, I think it's better indoors. I mean, you could see that because the indoor record was better than the outdoor record. I don't think it's universally better. I think there's conditions where it's going to be better outdoors. But if you had you had to jump with $1 million on the line, I think and you didn't know the conditions, you'd take it indoors. Outdoors probably, a little different. You actually were at this meet that I'm thinking of, 2016 World Indoors. I was there. That's the first time I saw Yulimar Rojas. Were you paying attention to the triple jump that day?
Not at all. Not at all.
I was, because I was sitting next to her coach, which is Ivan Pedroso, famous triple jumper himself. He was very animated. And I remember thinking Barguin was the queen of the triple jump at that point. But this woman is very tall, and she looks very talented. And I just remember once she figures out how to get it all working at the same time, like get all those levers going, she's gonna be really good. And now we're seeing it because, physically I think she has more tools than a Barguin.
Did not know she was 6'4" before.
Yeah.
6'4", I mean, I've seen her in person, but sometimes when you just get lost in the things you do. But 6'4", obviously quite tall for a woman.
Facts.
This was an unbelievable jump, not only because it broke the world record, but it was her last attempt on Friday at the Via de Madrid, the final World Indoor Tour meet. So,
pressure.
I mean, she seemingly could have been her last jump of the indoor season. I don't know if she's competing anymore, but last of the World Athletics season with no World Indoors. So significant. She had jumped 15:29 earlier in the event, which was one of the top five leaps I think of all time. Yeah, I mean, she's won back-to-back World Indoor gold medals, back-to-back outdoor gold medals at the World Championships. So obviously Tokyo, her chance to shine in the triple jump and conceivably break the 15.50 world record. But this was a month now where it's only February 24th, and we've already had 5 world records. 2 of them from Mondo, who jumped again over the weekend, only jumped like 6:01. What the heck, man?
Yeah. Well, he's going over 6 like it's easy.
5 times in a row or something.
Gordon and I were talking about this on Thursday. I don't know if you listened to the Thursday pod.
I didn't. Sorry.
Oh, you should. 1.5.
Yeah.
Is Mondo going to get to the point where he enters at like 590 and the competition's over? It's like how he did in college, where pretty much everybody's out and then he enters. I think if he's going over 6 with such ease, we're going to start seeing him enter the competition later and later. It's fun. So we've seen Mondo twice. You said 5, right? Rojas. Oh, you're counting the 5K in the marathon?
Cheptegei and then the half. How many?
Half.
So 2. Yeah,
that's 5.
Yeah, that's 5. Okay,
I just rode 5Ks. I know World Athletics recognizes it now. Kevin does not recognize it as an
What do you have
official
against the official Monaco, the course record, the 12:51?
I just rode 5Ks.
Listen.
Shouldn't be. Road 5Ks shouldn't be a thing.
I mean, I can
it should be a thing for us. It should be a thing for us.
I can see you getting offended by someone saying, "Oh, he took 27 seconds."
That's idiotic. And who's ever saying that? If they're a track and field.
I wrote that in my article.
Okay,
sorry.
well, sorry. Did you have a caveat in there?
I probably forgot it was early in the morning.
Okay.
I understand.
I'm going to edit that.
I know.
I'm going to edit that right now. Can I edit on this?
I understand that.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Somebody ran. Who ran like 12:59 at Carlsbad or 13?
Sammy Kipketer, man.
Kipketer, one of the greats.
Yeah. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. And I don't think we can keep a world record. That's fine. But I mean, we're not going to say that in the same breath as like a men's pole vault world record. I think a men's pole vault world record is there's one form to doing pole vault, like running a road 5K. It's just running on the track. Now, if Romex Kipruto breaks the overall world record on the track or on the roads, then I'll be impressed.
That's what 12:51 though is.
It's fast.
It's fast. I mean, so we're going to get to the point where the record's going to be like 12:40. I mean, like that seems like what he ran with no one. So if Kipruto would have been in there,
the track's been trashed.
Kajelka's been there, would have been there.
Yeah,
they would have run like in 12:40s.
Well, the track's been. I think that's due for a breaking soon.
Yeah.
Right. Like Michele was obviously great, but I think there's not that many track 5Ks. When they do have track 5Ks, it seems like people dawdle, unless it's the Diamond League final that one year. No one had broken 13 that year, though. I mean, think of all the missed opportunities over the years at these Diamond League 5000s, and now we're going to see fewer 5000s in general on the elite circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, that's a good point.
Speaking of 5Ks, though, we got some coming up this week that are part of what some are calling the greatest indoor 5K fields ever.
Yeah, not me.
Was
Don't
that
look
you?
at me. That was
you were
not
too busy
me.
writing that the 5K record got beat by 27 seconds. So Gordon wrote the headline. You didn't like the headline?
No, it's not true, but it's okay.
What's better? Dusseldorf 2012?
Yeah, I mean, we've had...
What's the field? Let's get the field here.
Okay. We've had races indoors where multiple guys have broke 13 minutes. And
but this is the pre-race.
Okay, so Paul Chelimo's in there. I think a very good shot that he breaks Galen Rupp's 13:01 something American record. But let's get into the exact field. We've got Cheserek, Chelimo, Kip Chirchir, Hillary Bohr, Paul Tanui, Eric Jenkins. Those are kind of your top line guys. You also have Justin Knight in there, somebody who I think could probably hang with that group. Emmanuel Bohr. I mean, Mark Scott's in there. But I mean, obviously the headliners are Chelimo, Tanui, Jenkins, and Cheserek.
Okay, and then the women's side of things.
The women's side of things, we have Coco, Constance Klosterhoffen, Mariel Hall, Courtney Frericks, Emily Infeld.
Ooh.
Lynn Jorgensen, a very interesting entry. I mean, this feels like the Klosterhoffen show.
Coco plus BTC.
Yeah. No Shelby here, but we think Shelby's going to be in this.
Well, she said she was going to run the 3,000. That's what she thought, which the American record there is 8:33.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to Boston, you're going to run fast. There's no other point.
Fast. Yeah, I mean, you would have to think she's running that. Why would you run this distance if you're not looking for a standard? You're looking for a record, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I think we can say that Shelby is going to be probably favored to break that record. I mean, It feels good. She ran, 8:52 at altitude in a tactical-ish race where she led the entire way. Yeah. She's run a 14:34 5K. She's run a 3:54 1500. That feels pretty good. I mean, it's still going to be a hard time to hit. Is that whose record is that? Is that
Shalane's
record?
You can look it up. I believe it's 8:33.
So more names to come out, but obviously the Chilean. I mean, if Lamong would have been in there, my brain may have exploded.
Well, Lamong's running in Boston because he posted something on Instagram about how he's running in Boston, so he must be in the 3K. So
come on, what are we doing?
Are they going to do memes like between the races? Do you think?
I mean, just like he's booing that. They're
like,
booing
I just won the race. What are you about to do? Like win the BU 5K first and then talk. Right. I'm excited for the possibilities here.
Yeah, I wish if they end up.
This is classic sprinter action here. People dodging each other.
I think so. I think we can safely say. Sorry, I was looking up. I realized Tilis Tapagia doesn't have good. No, they don't have the women's. I feel like they don't have the women's 3,000. I don't know
what
they're.
Athletics. Are you on athletics? Yeah, go to indoor. Are you on indoors? No. Scroll it.
Indoors. Hold on. I'm trying. Okay, indoors.
Yeah,
sorry.
And then I think it's 8:33.
8:33.25 from 2007.
I mean, if you asked me, Shalane Flanagan obviously is great, but 2007 Shalane versus 2020 Shelby.
Yeah, I would.
In a 3K.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in a longer distance, Shalane, but in a 3K, I'm rolling with Shelby there. I think she's going to get it. I think she's going to get it done.
Yeah, it'd be interesting who else is in that, who paces her. But yeah, that feels pretty close to certain.
I mean, you said Frericks was in the 5K, right?
Correct.
So maybe Quigley gets in the 3K?
Perhaps.
Maybe Schweizer gets in the 3K?
Perhaps.
They roll in bunches, Bowerman.
They do. They definitely do. They come as a package deal.
And then for the men, Lamong, maybe Kincaid, maybe...
I know those guys already have the standard, so I guess when I think back, why is Lamong not in the race? Well, he already has the standard, so that kind of makes sense.
Does Chelimo not have the standard? I mean, Chelimo can get the standard in 13 minutes. He can get the standard.
So here's the thing. I mean, in 2017, in 2018, Shelby ran 8:36 in Boston.
Indoors?
Yeah, so that's 2 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
So
this is gone.
This is gone. Yeah.
Sorry, it's out. It's over.
Spoiler
alert.
Does Chelimo have the standard? I feel like he does, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he must be going for an American record then, too.
Yeah, didn't he? He ran. Yeah, I mean, he ran 13:04. He ran 13:04 at the World Championships.
I mean, does Chelimo doesn't have a single American record, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So maybe that's what this is about.
Yeah.
How he wants his first American record.
Mm-hmm. Big.
More power to him.
Big.
Man, you got to do something with the indoor season this year, right? And there's no World Indoors, so try to make it happen. Gordon was right. It's kind of like World Championships in Boston. That's sort of the vibe here.
I mean, it should be, right?
Yeah.
I would be totally in support of that happening.
Yeah.
might be a little bit issue for the field events. But
yeah. Okay, you're on the site. What else? Anything else on our site that's interesting?
Well, I think we'll have some content coming up for the trials, which are 5 days away.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the trials at all? We want to talk about that, and we want to talk about some DMRs. We got 10 minutes.
Okay, so. I have started to preemptively or to preliminarily. Wow. Okay. Lay out my preview for the men's side.
Oh wow! Is that how many steps there are?
Yeah. There's a lot of steps involved. First,
Folks.
gotta like get in the right mindset. Yell at myself. Slap my face for an hour.
I went to Hawaii. I found the Decision Cave where LeBron decided to go to the Lakers. Oh, maybe that was in Antigua. Kanye did his beats in Hawaii. That's what I did.
I'm having a hard time. So I'm assembling it like this.
Help?
Favorites at the top, and my 3 names I have as the favorites are Rupp, Ward, and Career.
Bold, never seen this.
Then I'm starting to have tiers. This is getting a little Bill Simmons pyramid-y.
Yeah.
Where I have contenders.
Is there a secret?
And I think there might be. I've gone to a...
Top 27 half marathoners?
I'm trying to figure out like who to put in my tier of contenders because like Fauble, he feels like he needs a tier of his own.
Define. Hold on. Let's
contenders, not for the win.
As your editor in this specific moment here, so you're talking about contenders to make the team.
To make the team. Favorites, I would say favorites to make the team, and you have a solid top 3.
Boom. Okay, then
that's the top 3. I'm not distinguishing between favorites to win.
Should I do my preview the same way?
Probably for consistency's sake.
Well, this is interesting. So then I need to be invested in this advice that I gave you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what are the labels of all the tiers? Then it's contender.
I was gonna do
long shot would be at the bottom.
Long shot I did long shot, but and so I don't have anything between contender tier 1 and long shot. Now some would say
outside
I could do
shot.
Contender tier 2, but I don't really know how to distinguish. For example, how much credit should I be putting on the Chicago results? Do I really think Jake Riley coming off a 210?
Yeah.
And then I look back, I know it's been 4 years ago, but there are some guys who have remained solid that were top 10 at the trials. I think of Matt Lano, who just ran a 62-minute half, who ran 2:11 in Berlin in the fall, who doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about. He's not getting that same amount of hype. But he's been solid. He was 6th in the trials 4 years ago. He's been a guy who's been consistent.
All right. You don't need to tell me on him. Here's what I would tell you. Here's how I would do it.
This is a therapy session.
I'm not writing the men's preview. I'm writing the women's preview. I cover the women's side of the sport. I would go, I think you're right. Those 3, the favorites. Then we have 3, then you're saying you have 3 tiers of contenders, right?
I was thinking about it, The bottom one being a long shot.
Tier 1 is definitely Fauble. I think he's by himself in that tier.
His own tier. Okay.
The second tier, I would put Elkanah Kibet.
Okay.
I would put Shadrach Biwat.
See, I'm having trouble with him too.
And I would I'm thinking of who are people who could get on the team where I wouldn't be like stunned.
Okay.
It might only be, I'd have to dig more into the men's side of things, but it might only be that too. Then I would go to long shots because the rest of those guys legitimately are long shots.
Does Abdi not belong in the... Abdi just ran 2:11.
Abdi is a long shot in my opinion.
Okay.
Now long shots are a couple different reasons. One, you think they just have a puncher's chance because they've done it before. Your Ritzes, your Legats, right? He's only run, 1 marathon in his life?
Legats run 2.
2. Okay, so maybe he figures it out. You got to give him at least larger than a 0.1% chance, right? But then there's the people like Lano. Then there's the people like...
but we haven't mentioned the 210
Jake Riley's.
Yeah.
Well, because they're unproven. But I think that they're still long shots. If I told you, what are the betting odds on Riley making the Olympic team right now? It's very small.
Yeah.
So he's still a long shot, and his odds are worse than Kibet, and they're worse than Fauble, and they're worse than Biwat. So that's how I would do it. For me, it's gonna be harder because I don't really know.
Well, you get 7 strong names that you have to consider.
But that's that in one tier then? Like I don't know how you tier that out. And who are the favorites then? Who are the favorites to make the team?
I think no one's going to criticize you if you put Sisson, Linden, Huddle, Hassay.
Oh, you can put more than 3 in the favorites section? See, this is tough because I'm actually covering a really interesting race.
Who are the favorites to make the Final Four? Here's 8 teams. I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Maybe we need to work on this off mic and try to figure out a way that would work for both of us. I'm just more, aside from every race in the Olympic trials is always interesting because you're always got your eye on the top 3. But the dimensions of the women's race, even without Amy Cragg in it, the men, if they had an Amy Cragg-like absence in its field, would be like, okay, this race is like
one of the big blow. 4 dropped off. Yeah.
But for the women, it's like, okay, there's still a crazy deep race there.
for the men, do you think higher chance that the top three that we've kind of pointed out, Rupp, Ward, and Career, higher chance that they make it or that they don't make it? Just because so many guys in there.
Rupp, Ward, Career. So is there a greater than 50% chance that it's that perfect three, or
just
so one of them doesn't make it?
Yeah, probably.
The former. I think that's a greater than 50% chance that it's those.
Oh, really?
Not by much, though. I would think it'd be like 55-45.
Yeah.
Because it's the marathon, and picking a top three in a marathon, even when you think you know the exact three, is tough. But I would say 55-45. And that I still stand by my thing that there's like 5 women. No, there was 6 women. I think there's 5 women now for those 3 spots.
I did my voiceover, Jared Ward. Some are calling the best voiceover I've ever done. I mean, some people are saying it.
A voice of a Ward?
And Jared Ward, just recalling back to the Houston half, was saying that, he and Coach Eyestone think that it's going to be quite tactical. Do we think that that's going to play out like it's going to be really slow?
Yeah.
2:12 to 2:15 race?
But it's not like a 1500 where it's tactical and then you get a completely different result. I think the cream still rises in a marathon.
I mean, they could run 66 minutes through the first half, and then it's business time.
Do you know who's won tactical marathons before? Like Jeffrey Kamora.
Oh, yeah.
You know who's won fast-ish marathons before? Like, you know what I mean? Like DeCisa has run and won both ways. Kipchoge, if he ever got put in a...
Of course it's going to, it's not like Rupp's going to go out and try to run 2:05. Yeah.
I wouldn't think that would be the case. I think Rupp knows exactly the strengths and weaknesses of the field, and he's going to go out and... He's also doing, there was a Ken Go article. What is he doing? Tai Chi or something now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much do we put into the... Because I think back and look at all of these things where everyone says... I mean, it's just natural, I guess, in any sport, but it's like everyone says, oh, no, I'm in great shape. Things have been going well. And then it comes out after Chicago. Well, maybe I ignored, Rupp would say, like...
Yeah, my Achilles fell off at mile 7. Yeah.
It's just like, I know that you hurt yourself by saying that, but it just feels like every time we're like, everyone's going to come in and say, no, I'm in great shape.
Well, they act like they're boxers. They act like they're offensive linemen, and they're going to, like, hit them if they expose an injury. Like... I mean, I get the power of the mind and trying to overcome the ailments that the body has, but at a certain point, like if your Achilles tendon is hanging on like a 7-year-old's tooth, you got to be honest about it and just say, yeah, this is going to be rough. I mean, let's try to do that at the press conference. Let's try to find the most honest person about their build-up. I want someone to be like, listen, kind of sucked.
Yeah, because obviously you can have a great build-up and still run a bad marathon or get injured in the race, but it just feels like, I don't know, Rupp and Hesse aren't in the press conference, so we won't get that. So
and no huddle either.
Oh, no huddle.
I was texting with another media member this morning who was disappointed about the absence of those 3 folks.
Feels like can't get the full story ahead of time.
No, I mean...
I'd have to do some linking on the street to find out what people are thinking about.
Linking on the street? We got 2 minutes left. Do you want to talk about DMRs?
I mean, it was a repeat of last year, right? I mean, other than them, Notre Dame.
Fill me in as if I didn't pay attention to DMRs last year.
Alex Wilson, the meet everyone forgets about, the DMR meet at Notre Dame. It was once again Notre Dame versus Wisconsin for the win. Obviously, it's all about getting times. They did run very, very fast.
Oh, that's
2 fastest times ever on an oversized track. We're excited about that. Yeah. 9:25 to 9:25. Once again, Nagoose outkicks
Hoare.
But Hoare ran way faster. Yeah. So feels like last year. I mean, I think, again, that reaffirms to me that Notre Dame's the favorite.
Notre Dame, Wisconsin, if they run Hoare, Oregon, maybe Stanford gets in the mix. We don't know.
Did Stanford run at this?
I don't know. I just like to say that.
Okay,
like to say
I don't
Stanford
know who
might
in
be
the
in
world
mix.
Stanford would run.
I just feel like they're always there. I guess they always had Grant Fisher.
Yeah, that would be the
He was
catalyst.
there for numerous years. Okay, so is Hoare going to run it?
That's what I mean. Last year, I know he ran the 3K as well, but he was pretty shot after the mile when he did the mile prelim DMR and then mile the next day. I mean,
prelims, people underrate prelims. I feel like Gordon always writes off prelims. And we were talking about this when we were chatting on Thursday about what's Jones going to do. It's like you can't underestimate the toll that the prelim takes on your legs when the meet is that short.
Well, because it's tactical and you got to close fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
when it's warming up and it's time on your feet. You know, it's definitely not helping. There's it may not hurt a ton, and you may be a superior athlete and still be able to do it, but it's tough. You got to be better than everybody else at that point. I like what Notre Dame does. I like Notre Dame just has a playbook and they stick to it. And there's no maybe they changed this year and Nagoose runs the open mile, but they're just like, no. We're going to try to put the best DMR out there. And that's just going to be the thing. That's our identity in indoors. And I kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, it worked well last year.
You think their fans will travel again? Remember last year they came from South Bend to Birmingham?
Ooh, probably a longer drive this time.
To Albuquerque.
Maybe similar. Okay. I don't know. Albuquerque's got to be
If you're on the Notre Dame team and you know what the travel plans are, let us know.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun last year.
They were chanting like it was a basketball game. Yeah. That was awesome.
You have to think it helped. Negoose has a way to win right at the line.
Negoose has and look, I don't want people to get carried away with this. Not reporting this. This is pure speculation. Negoose has some weeding in him.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. I would have never made that
Or
comparison.
maybe if you want to say Robbie Andrews, maybe like collegiate Robbie Andrews.
Just like there's weed.
He knows exactly where to be at the right time, and his kick is, without fail, it's there.
I mean, hey, I put him first in the kick rankings, RIP last year.
Bring the kick rankings back. What happened to the kick rankings?
Hold on, I did want to point out, I didn't respond to your text yesterday, but before we go...
don't read my texts.
No, but my favorite tweet so far...
Oh yeah, don't read when I'm dunking on people. About
No, you didn't say anything. So there's just a screenshot of a text, or a screenshot of someone that's typed something out. Big news, Nike will provide a free pair of their new Alphafly racing shoes at the Olympic Marathon trials to any qualifier. This is not limited to Nike sponsored athletes.
Right.
Details forthcoming after check-in next week. Justin Horniker on Twitter writes, I don't know what to make of this, but league sources have passed this release along to me. Now,
league sources.
Is that what we're referring to?
I hope so. It sounds cool.
Are we wojing this up? League sources?
I like it. Are you in on that? I'm good on that terminology. It makes
I do like it. I'm excited to use that for the first time. I get any sliver of information.
Yeah. League sources?
League sources is exciting.
Are you going to say league sources tell me or tell FloTrack? Or what are they going to tell?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Remember when we were in Albuquerque, we were going to pass on really banal information as developing or breaking news? Or it's come to my attention that Christian Coleman has just run 6:37. I like that. I like that. I'm able to confirm. That's what you guys say. I'm able to confirm that.
Confirming the reporting of the results page.
Yes, I'm able to confirm USATF's results that Christian Coleman did in fact run 6:37. Let's do a couple like that. I feel like that's a good way.
So that's something to look forward to. We may be seeing just Santa Claus in Atlanta bestowing Alphaflies on all those who are willing to wear them in
We're still trying to find them, right?
But league sources, we haven't gotten our sources in the league to give us that information, but Justin Horniker has that. And, not saying he's reliable, not saying he's unreliable, but we'll wait to find out until we get there. We arrive in Atlanta on Wednesday, so we could be starting to see the beautiful black and green shoes as soon as we arrive.
I think they greet us at the airport, right?
Yeah.
Some airports have the bands that welcome you in. Some of them have the initials of the city. I think there's just going to be an enormous 8-foot-tall Alphafly.
I'm ready.
So tomorrow it's going to be me and Gordon.
Okay.
And then, I'm telling them. You're supposed to be like, yep.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. You just broke that news to me.
We're doing 2 in a row. I think that's the rotation we're going on. So on Wednesday it would be you and Gordon. Which means you're responsible for taking the stuff. I guess I can be here too because I don't know how much I trust you. Because we're taking the equipment to Atlanta, so we're going to do one Thursday morning and Friday morning.
We should do something unique.
Where we report stuff.
Record from a barber shop. I don't know.
Let's do it from
Can we find Killer Mike?
State Farm Arena. You know what's crazy? We're going to be there Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and we leave Saturday night. In those 4 nights, there's 3 Atlanta Hawks home games. What are the odds?
That's pretty incredible.
I mean, the last one we wouldn't be able to make.
Trae Young dropping a 50-piece. I could go for that.
Yeah, last one we'd have to finish our stories very quickly to make it there by 6:30. But we have a 9 o'clock flight, so you at least catch the first half.
We leave on Saturday night?
Yeah, like 9:30 p.m. But the press conference, I saw it today, women's press conference doesn't start till 3:45. So better get that shell written.
You get that shell. Yeah. All right.
League sources are telling us.
Feels like it. That feels like it for today. We good? We cover everything?
Well, we had a natural ending right there.
Okay.
You just force it.
I'm sorry.
You gotta let it go.
Sorry.
All right, guys. That's Lincoln. I'm Kevin. Stay tuned. More FloTrack podcast this week. We're gonna set up we forgot to set up an email. We're gonna set up an email soon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Gordon and I talk. If you listen to the show ever, when you're not on it, you'd know. We haven't done it yet, though.
Yeah, I gotta keep up. You're active in 3 podcasts. Yep. I can't listen to everything that you say. Sorry.
I know you're probably tired of my voice. That's why I like you guys' podcast. I don't. I can listen to somebody else talk about running. It's cool.
Yeah.
You guys do good work.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna help you on Patreon. All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.